Okay, so I started a live stream, but it totally failed. Thanks, uh, internet. So we're gonna do it a little differently. I'm gonna work and upload this later. So thanks for those of you who are watching. We're just gonna have to do it a different way. I like the live stream thing. It's really fun to talk to you and get your questions. So I'm bummed out about that. So I'm kind of beginning by, I'm going to add some of the lights that I see here, some of the lighter lights. This area. If you didn't miss too much, if you know, with the live stream failing, I just filled in some areas in and around the subject so that when I began painting it, I could compare it to the dark value back behind. And it's a lot of what I do is just a game of comparison. It's constant looking back and forth between certain areas and, you know, seeing, you know, how well it, you know, just, you know, how dark is it in comparison? How, you know, is it, you know, I'll also look at, like, you know, how warm or cool, or and so those are the sort of thoughts that, you know, I'm kind of assessing constantly. Like, what's this compared to the area next to it? Until I've really figured it out. So right now I'm just beginning this spot here on the white. And, you know, white is kind of a tricky color because, you know, of course nothing is really just white, but, and finding some of those subtleties is, on the one hand, very rewarding, but on the other hand, kind of difficult. So what I like to do is just start getting some paint down. Even if it's a little off, I'm okay with that, because I know I can work back into it and try to get it but kind of more on track, I guess. And this will be a really key area that I want to get. If you're looking at the source, you'll see how this shadow kind of blends in and disappears back behind there. You know, I really want to get that and make it beautiful and soft, and yeah, that is the goal. Mixing up some color here for this shadow, which, you know, has, you know, if I look at it, it looks like it's some of the viridian, where it's reflected, light reflecting the surface here. You know, sometimes I get the question, you know, can you just do this out of your head, or do you, you know, are you looking at something when you paint? And of course the answer is always, well, definitely looking at something. You know, light just does too many interesting and fun things to hazard a guess. So I do really enjoy finding and puzzling those things out. I don't have any odorless mineral spirits or Gamsol or anything. So I'm just picking up a different brush each time I want to do kind of a new color area. So, you know, I've got the brush there that I was using largely for the areas of white, and then the areas of shadow on the white, and now probably the entirety of the purple can be made with this one. So I'm going to mix up use a little bit of cerulean, alizarin crimson, and I'm just going to put this on here, see what it's looking like. A little too dark. Okay, like maybe a little warmer. Start anyway. Now it seems to get a little darker and richer as it goes down. Maybe even some of that red. I don't know if that'll quite. As I said, I can't really mix this color. I mean, and that's one of the things that's sort of simultaneously fun and frustrating about a limited palette is sometimes you just can't do everything. You can't make every color you'd like to make. And so you come close, or you use the color around it to kind of achieve the desired color. And you can use certain colors to push things warmer or cooler or more chromatic, the simultaneous contrast. Things around it will inform, push it in the opposite direction. So if it's lighter, and I can't quite do it, I can make things darker around it to push it lighter. Same thing happens with chroma, same thing happens with temperature too. Okay. So I've kind of blocked this one in now, and I'm gonna just work into it some. You know, I'm looking at a lot more kind of a yellowy color to it than I have, and those are those good discoveries, because then I can begin putting that in. And then I feel like it kind of moves to a little bit of a green on the right near the terminus of the shadow. Okay, I'm going to clean up my edges here a little bit, and then I'm going to go in a little more intently and try to work this out. And brushes that get a little smaller here. Sometimes I see some really intense color in the edges, so I might do something like grab straight Viridian and just kind of put it in the edge. I don't know that it's really there, but sometimes my eye is against kind of the white. It's probably an eye doctor can tell me why that's happening. I think it's astigmatism, but I kind of see these really intense colors in oftentimes where intense light values and dark values meet. And here I noticed a bit of a drawing error, and so I can kind of start to correct it too. Got my little buffing brush too, and because I think I had kind of the right values here, but I might have covered them up. So I'll just work that in, and again I'm following each of these strokes as a rounding. So even when I was using the brush, the bigger brushes earlier, you will see me pulling or creating these marks that'll tell us about. And then when I get here, they're more very surfacey this way, but as they turn out, they're turning with, and that following those contours with your mark is going to help your work. Quite a bit of thick paint here, and there is a nice highlight that I'm going to try to achieve by really laying on some thick lead white. Yeah, so I'm using lead white, cad yellow, yellow ochre, cad red, cerulean, burnt sienna, viridian, alizarin crimson, and ultramarine blue. Those are the usual suspects, always out. You're saying you boringly use the same ones each time. So you're right, I do. Next to no desire to change. Even when I can admit a weakness, the palette has a weakness, but I don't run out there to go fix it. I'm always hoping to discover new things the palette can do that I didn't know, and happens quite often. I'll end up being surprised. I'm doing something and it's like, oh, that works really well there, and I didn't even know that a month ago. So if you don't already, pick some colors. I don't care if they're these or others, and stick with them. make a commitment. This shadow kind of comes down. I mean, so I lose the complete edge of the turnip into the background value up here. So I want to keep that. Then we get some reflected light on the back side here. I definitely want to keep that too. I think it's still much more yellow than I'm making it, you know, as I look at it. So I'm going to add some more yellow ochre. Maybe even a little bit of burnt sienna in some of these areas. Already, I think it was a good move. Is that one yours too?
Yeah. They got everything. I'm pretty sure I got everything. Yeah, that's a big box.
They went nap time. Around here we're celebrating a wedding, and so the amount of packages coming to our door is amazing, mind-boggling. So this process here is just me kind of working in and out with modeling this form, and you know, there's these moments where I'm like, yeah, I think it's getting there, and then I'll swiftly think, no, not yet. notice I kind of start back in and work my way toward the light. None of ours? All right. I'm going to really start grabbing some of that lead white and laying in this highlight. Letting it catch the light above and then there'll always be new areas to kind of puzzle out. And since I've never done a turnip before, you get to kind of come along with as I figure out what happens in these in-between spaces, because they're very soft, and sometimes it's just a matter of finding the right color, and feels a little more reddish. I don't know, maybe. And here's where I think there's value in just trying to lay something down just to see what it does, where it goes. And I am paying attention to the shape. There are some shapes. And again, this is not so critical that they be, perfect representations of what's there, but definitely have to capture the essence of what's there. Or I like to call that kind of whisper that says, yeah, this is how, right on that line of turnip where white meets purple. We want to get that right, because the color of these is where that, for me, where that whisper lies. And so I'm going to do my best to really get that. Try out a few. Here, even. Yeah, then that kind of starts working a little bit. When I lean back, unfocus my eyes, look back to my source material, ask, okay, what's working, what's not. I don't want to lose these strokes all out, but I do want to get some of them kind of blended in as they go back. sometimes what I'll do, since I'm using a limited palette, my brushes usually get pretty messy, as they all have a bunch of color in them from other items, and there's this color right about here that's really strong. So sometimes I will try to mix a very pure, kind of intense tube color and white. And in doing so, I'm really going for purity here, so that the chroma is about the highest it can be. A lot of times, my brushes just kind of get muddy and messy, but I like that. But I'm also trying to, at the same time, create some of these colors that as I said, I can't really make given the palette. So creating a few of these that are really pure and really strong. I can kind of dip into them when I'm working to create some of these highlights here. Kind of see where we end up. Get just a little lighter. So let's kind of like drop this in, see what it achieves. If it does, drop this in, see what it achieves. If it does. There is some white, but it is a little messy. And here too.
Chasing got a little messy.
And I'm starting to like this now. Kind of like I did earlier with the kind of edge out here. I might do kind of a fun, see what this does right in here. I put this stronger violet right to this edge. Yeah, I don't know if that did anything. And there's the other side of it. It's like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Oh, no, not that hot. But then setting it off a little bit with the cerulean, I thought was nice. I do think toward the bottom side, though, I do think I actually see some of that alizarin down here, this edge. However, so I'm gonna just put some of that in. There is a dark, I can get my dark brush back out. It has some of my, I see a little bit of, it's not much, but this area here gets just a little dark before the reflected light kind of bounces back. So. Whoops. Okay. All right, I think I like how that one's looking. What I want to get in now is just some of the tabletop color, just so that I can compare what's happening. Which in the back here is pretty dark and kind of green, and talked about this previous videos too. You know, very intentional with color selection. So you know, I've got these lovely purples, and there's gonna be yellowy whites for this piece, and so I will pick color that's, you know, maybe slightly green, or I'll just you know, use a complementary color. That's easy. Any one of us can, you know, do that in, you know, in our work. Select something that quite naturally works with, has color harmony. Just looking at, you know, your color, considering your color wheel, using complements and triads and all that. You can do some really, can really make it work with you know, not a whole lot of effort. Let's think back to my shell with the blue from last week or the week before. I don't remember exactly where that all runs together. When I have exhibition weekends, I end up being very, very busy. Don't worry, we killed the stream, but we are recording the videos.
Okay, I just came up to let you know that I'm off the internet now.
Okay. No, it's all good. I don't think that was it anyway. So everyone, if anyone's watching this, yeah, we had stream issues. I don't know. Internet.
Did you get done with your homework?
Yeah.
You can use that chair.
Yeah, it's true. It's done. Right, I think that is practically.
Watch. It's a day in the life of me. What are you doing?
I don't want to do the audio.
It's just music.
What?
It's just music.
No.
Yeah, you just don't. Yeah, just mute it. It's not very good. I didn't work on it for very long.
All right. We're gonna take, I think for now I'm gonna leave that there and I'm gonna hop to the next one. Now I do think that I probably have a little bit more of a lighter and more yellowy surface here that I've put in. So I might just do that a bit. All right, second verse, same as the first. Mix up what I hope will be, you know, a nice tense in the light. You know, let's see what this does. Mix these two. Just a little bit of light. And so I'm having to use alizarin to achieve this really intense purple in the light, and it is sort of working. And this is one of those moments where I laid that color in, but then comparing it to the value I have back there, you know, I discovered, oh, this is going to be, you know, a lot darker around this edge than I initially planned. And just continue to mix these, you know, carefully. So what I'm using to mix this is ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and white. Yeah, kind of working around, trying to see what decision, what focus I want to make next. You know, this will be interesting, you know, this area kind of around here, it does start to get a little lighter. We see some of those areas of white that we did before. At the same time, they're also very much in the shadow. So, you know, in these moments, it's okay to kind of grab a little bit of that background, kind of soften that edge. And then down here along the bottom, it's still it's interesting, you know, it's lighter. It's one of those cases where you kind of also have to be careful if you want the firm or the form to still kind of turn in. We're gonna have to keep it kind of dark. And really, you know, in these moments, I'm just letting some of the colors and shapes that I see sort of do the talking. You know, I'm moving from space to space and seeing kind of, okay, what's working here, what's not. You know, we're gonna probably have a lot more reflected yellow underneath here than I would think on this underside. Some burnt sand in there too. And again, you can remember when we were doing this one, the dark part of the shadow was up top because the reflected light kind of killed the intensity of the shadow. Same thing's happening here, where we can kind of see that shadow line here, and then the reflected light. These are all the little bits of, you know, minutia that matter. You know, some things don't matter in trying to depict and render some of these things, but some of it really does. And you know, those key kind of light cues will be really important. So we need to get a little bit catching the light. It's not probably quite that light. So I keep, notice I put some color down, realize, oh, that's too light. And then, you know, come back down and dip into some other colors, make some adjustments, and then kind of come back up. You know, I like doing that so that it's, you know, I put down a little bit without committing to too much to see, oh, is this right? And you know, conversely, this shadow I just put down, I very much am like, yeah, this is it. So I didn't feel like I needed to try to kind of work back into it or figure out why that was or wasn't working. And here's just a good thing to kind of watch, this whole edge where the reflected light is very light here, but then it kind of decays as it comes around, and you'll notice it turns a little warm. I put something down that didn't quite work, and then as it comes down here, you know, it turns very kind of yellowy green. And so a lot of times all I'm doing is kind of making a decision in one area and saying, okay, from there it gets a little warmer, and then maybe a little darker right here, and then a little more kind of yellow where it begins reflecting some of the greenish colors below. There's just a little bit catching some of this here and there, and I want to get it in, but you know, I keep it's not quite getting it right. That was better. That was a much better one. Much more satisfying. I keep seeing kind of all this meridian and I'm going a little overboard. And, you know, definitely picking out, there's quite a bit of spots here and there that I just don't have figured out yet. Notice I'm just trying to kind of, with one movement, get that calmed down some. You know, knowing that I can work back into it. Some of the light. Some of these edges, you know, I think it has a lot of yellow ochre in it. It's maybe a little bit of the meridian. It's a little lighter than that. Mix down into okay. Everyone okay back there? So these kind of lines around here, you know, yeah, there's a lot of little information. And yeah, I'm gonna try to get some of it, but I'm gonna still let it be a painting still work. Got that cast shadow just a little more. The greens have already been cut away. You get what you get at the supermarket sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But David chose well. So we're going to try to get this really diffused highlight kind of across this area. Using some of the ultramarine and white, some of the alizarin and white. So now that I've mostly blocked stuff in here, then I'm kind of on the lookout for all of the parts that I've missed, because there'll be these big areas that are just, whoops, missed that spot. This edge is still the most interesting thing that I'm still puzzling with. How does the light and color kind of work through that spot? And as agonizing as these moments can be, that's kind of what makes painting makes it really fun to wrestle with until, at least we hope, in the end it's like, I figured it out, got it. Sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. Shadow's just not quite right yet. So I think I've spent a lot more time on this one than I did on this one. If you had a timer going. Spot I missed. I think I'm liking it a little more now. It's still on the fence for me. If I play with some of these edges, and yeah, I'm softening them, but I'm also using a little bit of, you'll see me pull almost direct tube colors into the mix. I noticed a drawing error in this shadow here. You know, I've got it kind of back here, and I was like, why is this not working? And I think this needs to, this is too much of a straight line there. So if I pull this down to here, like that, that's better. And this is a really tough area to as you decide, you know, what information to pick and how to keep it kind of working. And even this spot here seems to have a little bit of a highlight too, so I'll try to include some of that. There's some kind of interesting purples even in here. Okay, I think I'm gonna move on to the next one. I'm still unsure about it. And I think what has happened is, and this is kind of one of those should have known better moments where the edge lines, you know, so right where, so the reason why this is not working is while kind of in the source it looks okay, like this is still the light side is of course the purple, and right when kind of the shadow terminus begins, it's as the white starts. So it kind of makes for this, at least value-wise, this thing that just kind of blah sits there. And you don't really have a nice bright white that's moving around, or these lighter purples that are moving around and following things. I think that's what's happening. Maybe something else is happening and I don't know it. But if I was on live stream, someone could have told me. But alas, I'm not. So possible solution, because I'm always kind of thinking in those terms, is I could really try to play up this highlight and turn the form a little more right here. And I think I may try to do that. It's the great thing about oils. You know, if this doesn't end up really working, I can paint more oil on top of it. See if mixing another purple. Yeah, see that doesn't, looks a little more. color that I want is this one that's kind of right here. And it's color I can't make. It's not bad, but it's just too... Yeah, as close as I can come. So there you go. Another fun thing is limited palette stuff. Like, okay, what? You know, I still want this really intense color, and I'm just gonna have to use alizarin crimson, even though it's not really what it is. But I still want the value intensity and chroma intensity here. Can't really add too much to it, or I lose that. So I think we'll pause that there and head to the next one. See where we can end up. I take a quick moment and fill in greens down here in this cloth. That edge is really kind of lost there, so it was just playing around. We'll see if we leave that or not. Now this one I'm really excited about. So maybe I saved the best for last. We'll see how it turns out. But this one has some really nice areas, and especially that light blue in the highlight. I'm excited to tackle that. Okay. And while it's doing a similar thing, I do still have, I think, just the line is in a little different place here, so meaning I think it'll be okay. Fill in this dark side first. So I can work slowly that way. Shadow starting off there. And we do have a nice kind of bit of reflected warmth in here. That was not the greatest move there on my part. Not bad, not the worst I've ever done. But where to next? That's always the question. Notice a lot of my colors that I mix are neutralizing colors, so you know, I'll mix across the color wheel to get some of these neutrals that I want for shadows. So mixing Viridian with burnt sienna, or burnt sienna with cerulean. And these are all an attempt to get kind of a neutral that has a lot of color intensity in it, because the, you know, both of those are, yeah, I mean, the tube colors really strong, and kind of mixing across in that way, I think creates some interesting effects. You know, I think this is very, seems very yellow ochre and yellow down here. But then in here it gets a little more neutral. And then it gets darker around the root. You know, the black just kind of came off a little too I don't know, achromatic. And it seems like this dark black kind of comes right back up into here, from what I can tell underneath there. And I'm just chasing shapes, letting whatever that next thing is I see just jump in and say, okay, yeah, let's put that in, see what we get. lighter on this top side, kind of around here. All right. I think we can get out my lighter brush, you know, that I sort of have designated for these areas, and I'm gonna look for the areas of white that appear like they're still in the light. So, you know, right in here, it's kind of like maybe the lightest point. And we'll work on getting those edges a little more cleaned up and modeling that. You know, nice kind of see a little shape kind of like that, and then as it comes here, about shape like that, and we have like a little bit of a wound here, and then this kind of seems to come up here before it comes to the edge. And, you know, you could say, well, is that exactly what it does? Not exactly, but it'll work. And we'll get in there with some of these warmer, yet more yellow colors. But I think with this, I'd like to block in a little more first. And I just always feel like I make better color and shape and drawing decisions the more elements are in place. Seems like there's a little, as it gets darker up toward the top, that darker purple, and then slowly lightens as it comes around. We can use some of these that we've mixed up. And I see a kind of a strange lighter line right on this edge. I don't think I'm going to include it. I think the forms won't quite wrap around if I do that, and you know, that's what I want to see. Coming about as close as I can to this purple color. into this highlight in the purple, and how that highlight almost matches the light side of the turnip too. Kind of looking forward to this bit of a lost edge here. Seeing what all I can achieve when I get in there and play. Okay. Here's where I can let some of that refinement happen in that area. I'll tell you what, I might as well block in that top portion too. And you know, in these moments, you know, I'm just looking for a handful of shapes that are kind of telling me what's happening, and still letting some of the brushwork remain. I think that's, to me anyway, very, very exciting to just let that play out. Pick up my little brush here and just buff a few areas, and I mean, I need correction too, so come in here, it needs to go a little lighter. A little more yellow. It's probably too much. Okay, easy to tone down. And this is another moment where that shape, to me, it looks a little strange. And kind of when the shape looks strange, it just kind of doesn't, kind of looks a little lumpy, or, I mean, like, it looks very turnipy, nice round kind of oval, and this one is not quite working in the same way. I think it's because I don't quite have this built up and around as much, so I'm gonna just work on making that a little more there. And then chopping off a little there. A little, and I like that shape a little better now. Yeah. A light, almost dusty part up here. I don't know why. Just kind of like how it's looking. Want to include that. Strangely enough, didn't want to include it on the other side. I'm not sure why. Painter's intuition. Chalk it up to that. I'm going to round this out a little more. I think this might be part of it too. I just don't, this is a little more rounded than I have it. And now I'm going to refine this, looking forward to it. Nice kind of deep purple there that fades into, and I'll just kind of drag that down into the area we're working on. See it kind of happen over the top of here too. I think I'm finding another spot. I think this just comes a little higher than I have it. I won't make it feel as maybe squat. So if you could, and maybe you can, see my head kind of just turning back and forth over and over and over again, trying to decide, okay, what are the key, I mean, the absolute most necessary things needed next. And I think carrying this edge down this is one of those kind of green edge things up through here. So now we're just going to kind of engage in the push and pull. So I move the shadow, I'm going to kind of carry the light back across too. And I was happy with how that moved. Keep pushing and pulling this until it gets there. It's getting really close. I'm going to take some of this and this kind of blue highlight and got a little too much on there. A little bit of this white highlight right in here too. These worlds kind of meet right here. And I think with that, probably go ahead and wrap up the video. And I think some of the key things to take away would be start with your darks and kind of work back and forth. So get some things in there so you can work into it, work it back until it's working, until it's doing it what you want it to do. And continue to mix color, put it down, see if it's there, because sometimes it's not there, and it just needs a little bit more, a shift cooler, a shift toward a greater intensity of color. There's just a lot of ways in which you can move forward. And so anyway, I hope there was something helpful today. Leave a comment and like and subscribe. Appreciate it. Have a good one.